Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop, or my garage, and today we're going skiing. We're going to be working with this mystery wood. It came from Jeff Rashowski. He's the guy behind Reed Plains, and this is wild. It's got spiral growth grain. So normally the grain on a tree would all grow parallel vertical, and this one, it actually grows in a spiral around the tree, and every few years it switches directions. So you're always working in a cross grain situation. Speaking of which, the plans for this are also available on the website. They're ones that Jeff made because he made the rack for himself and thought others might want it, so they are there for you if you want to make them for yourself. Really kind of a cool design, and I've been wanting to make them for a while. So you need to start off with some thicker material. Jeff actually made his out of a single piece, and you'll see it when they come together a little bit more. I decided to make them out of a couple different pieces because it's a little bit easier with hand tools. If you're doing it with a power tools, you can actually make it in a large strip and then cut them into size. So we need to mark this down to dimension and start dimensioning the lumber. Yay, this is the way every project starts. Once you have one surface that is square and true, you can then mark everything off of that one square surface. So the first thing I did was make the outside edge square and true, and then I can mark off of that. And that way I know that my marking gauge line is parallel to the first line. It's of utmost importance that you actually start with a surface that you know is true. This is your reference surface that everything else gets referenced off. And then you can mark it and make sure that all of your marks in the future come off of this one side. And once you have one, it's true that you know everything else works off of. I'm using a large handsaw. This is over 26 inches long, and therefore it's actually a handsaw. Kind of odd historically, all of the other saws that are shorter than that actually aren't handsaws. They're hand-powered saws, so keep that in mind. The intricacies of naming things throughout woodworking, it's always kind of fun. Great way to start conversations and arguments as well. But we're going to then grab my jointing plane, which is far longer than this needs to be, as the board is only about 2 foot long. And this 2 foot long board will allow me to make multiples of these brackets that actually hold the skis onto the wall. But we want to get a nice true edge that is 90 degrees to the first edge, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other one, and then we can start cutting these down to shape. First thing I need to do is actually trim up the end of the board because it's not square to the end. So with the square on here, I can put that off of my reference edge and reference face, and then get a nice clean line that I can cut this board to length. Well, in this case, I'm not actually cutting it to a length. I'm just squaring up the end so that I have something to work with. Then from that square end, we can measure out and actually start cutting all of these blocks to shape. Now, the interesting thing about this, these blocks are going to have an odd zigzag pattern that locks onto a French cleat, and then the skis hang on these blocks. And for most of it, there's going to be the French cleat on the back and a small space for the binding to fit into. And then there'll be a small piece that sticks up into the binding. In Jeff's design, he had it all as one big piece, which works out great. But I decided I want to try and make them of 2 different pieces and play around with it. So I would suggest you follow Jeff's design because he usually thinks through things far better than I do. But in this case, I wanted to play around and try something a little different because that's what I like to do. The length of the block here is actually the height of the block. And in this, you're going to have to cut out a section to fit into the French cleat as well as the section that then goes into the binding. And we'll take those designs from the plans and start marking out exactly where these need to go. And you're going to be creating this into basically an S shape. So you're cutting up down from one end, and on the other side you're cutting down from the other end, and then you're paring in from the outside. So it's a little bit of a mind game to make sure you're actually marking the same spot. In this case, I marked the wrong spot on one side, and I had to go back and redo it. And after the first block, it goes pretty well. You can get a little idea of the shape with the designs there below. For the French cleat, we're actually going to be putting in a 45 degree on here. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch of cuts where we're ripping down a little ways into the block, and then we're coming back through and cross-cutting back to that rip. And you can see the layout between these two sides. You're just cutting out these 2 notches on the other side. So I'm going to start off with cross-cutting to it. You can rip first, cross-cut, your choice. It doesn't really make any difference as long as those 2 lines meet and you don't go too far past it. So we can cross-cut down a little ways, then rotate the blade of the board 90 degrees and rip it down. For the one that's 45 degrees, this is a little bit more difficult because you have to start at an angle. But as long as you take it slow and treat it as a 90 degree, it actually goes pretty well. You can see I have this rotated in the vise, so I'm cutting up and down. I'm cutting a regular angle just like any other. It's cutting vertical, but the block is turned to make that fit. So we're going to cut down that 45 just to the point, stop and make sure we're okay. Then I'm going to change out to a rip saw and then come down and make those meet. And you can see how this is creating that little bit of a zigzag S shape. And that's what we want so that the French cleat can hang on the wall. This is a fun one for a beginner design, is it doesn't take a whole lot. You're just making a few cuts. And if you're off a little bit on the line, it's not a huge issue because we can plane these and clean them up. And it's not a world-changing issue if you're off by a little bit. It's also not on display, so not everyone's going to see it. It's behind the ski in the binding. And so it's a great chance that if you mess up, then, well, it's not a huge issue. And it doesn't really cause the functionality any problem as well. Once we get these cut down and we get the zigzag block, we can come in and clean it up. One of the problems with cleaning up this is it has a stopped edge, so how do you plane all the way up against that edge? Well, that's where a shoulder plane really shines. You could also come in with a chisel and take off the material close to the edge, which is usually what I like to do. But every now and then, the shoulder plane is just nice because it's got an edge that comes all the way out. In this case, I'm using a rabbited block plane. This allows me to get right up to that edge. But inside the 45, there is no way other than the chisel. So you've got to get in close and take it right back into that edge. Make sure you clean it all out because you want to make sure that the French cleat can get all the way back in there. Or you can just take the edge off your French cleat, which is usually what I do, just in case you have any schmoo in there, it can fit all the way back in. Speaking of the French cleat, I have this really nice clean piece of southern yellow pine, and it's one of the few pieces of southern yellow pine I have. It's kind of hard to find around here, but I'm going to mark in the same width of the board as down. So if I'm coming in a 1/2 inch, I want to mark down a 1/2 inch. In this case, I'm going to come in 5/8. I'm not going to do it a full 45 so that it comes all the way to the point because I want to leave that little corner off. So rather than taking it all the way down and leaving a sharp point on that 45 and then taking the sharp point off, I'm just going to plane it down until I get close to it. And then I'm not going to take that last final corner off so that there's always something to clear out so when it goes up into the corner. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of one of those hard things that's hard to describe. I'm going to start with the scrub plane and start taking off most of the material with that. The scrub plane allows you to go pretty quickly through it. And I'm going to stay with the grain and just take little piece after little piece until I get close to my line. Then I can come in with my jack and I can take it right down to the line. You can see I'm really not caring about the 45 as much as I'm just wanting to make sure I hit both of those lines that I drew right down the edge. And you can see this block will then fit in and lock down in there. It holds on really nicely. So this can slide along and then lock in at any given place along the board. But Jeff thought it might need a little bit more, like there might be something that's holding it so it doesn't slide side to side. And he put in a little screw design on his, which I'll be showing you here in a little bit. But the first thing we need to make is actually the toe lock. This is the piece that goes up into the binding and keeps the ski from falling off of the rack. Originally for Jeff, this was all one piece, and this small toe piece was actually part of that same block we just cut off. But I had a problem that the block wasn't the right size. The material I had was a little bit too thin, and I thought, oh no, I can't make it. I'm going to have to go get something different. And then I realized, well, what if I just make a piece that I can glue on there? So I've got this 1/2 inch piece of red oak that I'm going to play with. Now, I'm not going to trust the glue entirely, so we're going to glue it on there, and then I'm going to put a small screw through just to hold it in place. But I think with the glue, it should be good enough by itself. We're just going to put the screw in for a little bit extra. So I'm going to rip this down to the right width that it needs to be so that it sticks up a little bit higher. Now, one of the things you want to be careful if you're going to make this for yourself is every binding is a little bit different. So you want to make one of these and test it for yourself, because the distance that this little block is out from the main block determines how big a binding you can fit in there. So if you have small bindings where there's a small toe clip, you probably don't need quite as large of a block behind it. But on one of mine, I was actually a very, very thick one, and I had to build a separate block that was slightly wider so that this toe block could fit on there. Wow, I use the word block a lot. So after ripping this down, we can cut it to width, smooth it out, and then we can actually cut it to length. Measure out the length of the block, which is just how tall this needs to be to stick up into the binding. And then we can apply it. I decided I wanted to do a little bit of rounding on the corners to make it fit into the binding a little bit better. So I just grabbed a rasp and round those over. And I played with it, and I found out that in one of my bindings I had to put a larger round over on it. Several of them it really didn't matter so much because the boots that would slide up in there were much wider than what would normally that this block would be. But to put that little rounding on there makes it fit a little bit better. So we can take it up and test it and make sure that they actually fit in the binding. This is the big one, the one I had to make it a little larger. So I had to make one specific Z block a little bit fatter so that they could stick up in a little farther. So you can see testing them is wise just to make sure that they actually work out. And yes, we went through all of them. Myself and my kids each have a couple pairs of skis for different conditions, but most of them are skis that the kids have grown out of, and we now have them for when their friends want to go skiing so they can come join us. In Jeff's design, he decided he wanted to put a little screw through the back of the block so that it can't slide around on the French cleat. And it's actually kind of an interesting idea, so I wanted to play with it, and I ended up doing it on about half of them, and half of them I didn't do it just to see which was different. I haven't seen a huge difference, but I do like the idea of putting the screw through. So I'm drilling a hole that goes through the back of the Z-block into that 45, and then I chamfer it out with a countersink. And then you can put in a screw in this block until the tip of the screw just touches through into the angled piece on here. And that screw just touching through then will stick into the French cleat, allowing stopping it from sliding side to side. And so when you actually push it down and jam it on, then the block can't move around at all. And it actually works out really well. The head on this head sticking out just a little bit too far, so I came in with a file and flattened that back. If I had changed the profile, the angle, it probably would have fixed it as well, but just filing it flat worked out really well. I'm going to put on a little bit of glue to lock this down in place, and on a couple of these I put just glue on it, and then I came back later and thought, you know what, I'm going to put a screw in. So I countersunk and put in a screw on the surface of each one of these just as belts and suspenders. It's always better to be safe than sorry. But we made one block, and now I need to make another one, and another one, and another one, until all of the skis can hang up. Once they've all dried, we can come back and chamfer them and smooth them and clean out the transition between the glue joints and do those last few details that just make it look a little bit better and feel a little bit better. You can see how many of these blocks we had to do because, yeah, if I only had a couple pairs of skis, it would be much easier. But, don't blame me. You should look at Jeff's rack. It's just him and his wife, and he's got more skis than I and my kids do. And that's the very reason why he came out with the design, because it's nice to be able to store all the skis up clean, get them out of the way. Most of the time they'd be stacked up in the corner, and it's just a mess. Skis and poles tend to be annoying, and having this to organize and set them all up looks good, feels good, and is pleasing to the soul. Now, for finish on this is where you can go hog wild and do whatever you want. I know a lot of people would want to finish them with a lot of different surfaces to make them pretty or shiny. Boiled linseed oil will be my one of this. It's known that isn't going to need a lot of protection. Just something to seal the surface a little bit is all it really needs. Everything else is just the feel good and make it what you would want. So in this case, I built them all, tested them, hung them up, and then later brought them down and finished them. And I'm just going to be using boiled linseed oil and a little bit of paste wax after it. And yes, I'm using my bare hands because this is homemade boiled linseed oil. It's not the store-bought stuff, so it doesn't have all the other chemicals in there. It's just a clean, raw linseed oil that has been treated. So I'm going to apply that, let it soak in for a little while, put some paste wax on there, polish off the paste wax, and that's really all I'm going to do on these blocks. Finishing the project is always one of the favorite parts. Not just the completing of it, but the actual applying of finish and seeing the grain pop out. It is very pleasing. Unfortunately, though, pine just doesn't pop with color. And I was second guessing my thoughts on this because the pine is not as pretty as the oak. But it's useful, so it works. And pine is perfectly fine for this function. Especially this is a very nice piece of southern yellow. It's clear, there's not a knot on it. It'll work perfectly fine for the application. It's just not as pleasing to the soul because it doesn't pop with the color and explosion you'd expect from all the other blocks. Once it's had a chance to soak in for a while, we can wipe it off and then take it up to the garage and test it out. And of course, then we run into problems of where's the stud? Where is the stud? And you can see the magnet up above. I'm actually placing the magnet on the wall, looking for the screws and making it fit in and finding, oh look, there's the stud. Then that makes it a lot easier for actually hitting it. Most of the time, I still ended up missing it. Yes, we do want to countersink all the holes. So I have a countersink bit on here, and then the screw goes in and sometimes hits and sometimes doesn't. In this case, I missed. So you move it over, you can see, oh yeah, look, multiple screw holes. Great. Oh well, it's one of those fun things of trying to find studs. Then we can actually test them out and hang them up and see how it goes. And they all hang up really well. The skis have now been hanging on this rack for about 5 or 6 months now, and I just wish I had made this a long time ago. Jeff made up the plans about a year ago, and it was one of those projects I put on the back burner and finally got done. But I wish I'd done it earlier because this came out really well. Now if I just had a place to put my boots and all the other ski equipment. So there you have it, ski rack. Now these are plans that are actually made by Jeff from Reed Plains. Yeah, that Reed Plains. He goes skiing quite a bit as well. He made this rack for himself, and they're actually provided, you can find links down below if you'd like to make this as well. It's kind of a fun design, and I really like how it came out, and I'm looking forward to maybe adding more in the future. So yeah, if you want to go skiing with me sometime, well, come hang out. I'd love to. But I think they'll do it for now, and until next time, have a wonderful day. Hey, check out my rack.